Welcome, everybody. I think we've got a few minutes before we'll get started here. For those of you that are here, take a second to throw in the chat box where you're from. We'll get a sense of who all is here, and we'll get started here in a few minutes. All right, let's get started, everybody. So we are here this afternoon for Better Together, a K-12 administrators virtual event. I always kind of have to giggle whenever I do an event with administrators because I feel a little bit like I'm in trouble. I can't just shake that feeling like I've just been sent to one giant principal's room. So I'll try not to be intimidated by you all and make this a great use of your time is my hope, because we really are better together. We are facing so many real and significant challenges, and we just thought, can we get folks together to share these common challenges that we're facing, see if we can share some things that are working, or just commiserate a little. That's okay too. So that's why we're here today. We'll keep this to an hour, and hopefully it's a great use of your time. So what we're going to do today, some quick welcome and introductions, get our brains going, and then we're going to jump into those breakout sessions. So as I mentioned, hopefully when you signed up, you chose one of the topics. We have how to really develop those social emotional learning skills, how to really focus on student engagement, and the other one was building teachers' comfort with technology. So you signed up for one of those breakout rooms or topics to really dive into. And so in just a few minutes, we will break out into those, and you can share with your colleagues some things that you're learning. Because I bet you challenges that you have, someone else has as well, and maybe they have some good solutions that will help you. But also notice that picture of the Ziploc bag. Hopefully you received a package, and in it was a little Ziploc bag with some stuff that said to wait and save these items for this event. Well, we are here at this event. So if you got your box already, and most of you should have, if you registered within the last, I'd say 2 to 3 days by Monday, then it's on its way to you. You may not have it for this event today, but you'll be just fine. Don't worry, you can follow along. But you're going to need the things in this bag during our event. So make sure you have that handy if you can. Then we'll take a little bit of time. I want to share some resources around those topics, some ideas for how to really turn this crisis into an opportunity and use all the uncertainty that we're facing right now, hopefully as a catalyst to really improve teaching and learning. And we're going to end the hour with a rocket launch. Yes, a rocket launch, because that's the way we do things. Why not? So we're going to have a little bit of fun with that. And that's where your film canister will come in. If you were wondering why in the world you have a film canister in the year 2020, it's for a rocket. And as I mentioned as well, we're also going to be giving away a project-based learning unit as well. So again, if you haven't yet, make sure your name is the same as what you registered with, so we get you in the right breakout room and we can register you for that project. All right, some quick introductions. I am Tara Tarango. I am with the Van Andel Institute for Education. I've been here about 4 years, and we are a nonprofit organization really dedicated to helping teachers, do this really difficult job a little bit better, or in the way that they imagined when they got into teaching. So that's what I've spent my career doing, is helping teachers create classrooms where curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking thrive. So that's what I've kind of dedicated my career to, and I'm joined by a Better Together team. So when I thought, what goes better together? One thing that goes really better together is PB&J, right? We didn't quite get PB&J, but we gave you some chocolate and peanut butter in your bags, in your boxes. But peanut butter jelly, the only thing that goes even better than PB&J is something I call DB&J. And that is my friends, my colleagues, Dawn, Ben, and Jamie. That's DB&J. They are here as well. They are working in the background, assigning those breakout rooms, getting that giveaway list ready to go, and helping facilitate in the chat, things like that. So I see them waving. Hi, guys.
Hi, everybody.
So we are here to hopefully make this the best use of this time as we possibly can. I also want to point out that all of the resources that I talk about today, all the strategies that I might model today that hopefully you could use with your teachers, they're all in one document. And if you're the type that likes to follow along, you can put this into your browser. It's a Google Doc. I think Jamie might also be putting it into the chat if you want to just click on it from in there. But that's a bit.ly that'll take you right to a document, a hyperdoc that has links to all the different resources that we are going to talk about today. So don't feel like you have to write notes furiously if it's something that you are interested in. All right, so I want to start just by acknowledging the sort of context that we are in, right? It's a very strange time, and what we're being asked to do as administrators, as leaders, is to lead through a pandemic. And it sounds hard because it is hard. So I thought I'd just start by, acknowledging these are things you're probably already doing, or if you find yourself lost in the sort of shuffle of how do you lead through the pandemic, Here's 4 tips for you, just big picture tips that I wanted to just bring back to your attention or to the forefront of your attention. And the first is to lead with compassion. We just did a recent survey of the teachers that we work with, asked their stress level on a scale of 0 to 5. The average was like 3.8. And this is in the fall when teachers are normally, super excited and still very optimistic about their school year. So that's really telling. And I'm not telling you something you don't know. You probably see it in your, I was going to say see it in your teachers' faces, if you're able to see their faces and through their masks. And you're probably feeling it yourself. Obviously, it's just a really tough time. So leading with compassion, I would say, is probably the biggest thing that you can keep at the forefront of your mind. And these other things as well, giving teachers some voice so that, in this time of uncertainty, they have a little bit of control. Lead by example, and I'm going to show you a few strategies today. If you want your teachers to be engaging those students, particularly in remote environments, you got to show them some examples of how to do that. And I'm going to share some with you today that you can take back and use. And then finally, being clear with those expectations. Teachers like to do a good job. They kind of grew up in a system where they knew what was expected and they were able to deliver that. And so make sure they know what a good job looks like to you and be clear with those. So again, nothing revolutionary. You probably are already doing those, but I wanted to bring them to the forefront of your mind to help you as you kind of wade through this haze of leading through a pandemic. So let's get started with something that's going to get our creative and critical thinking going. And as I mentioned, this is all about better together. So this is going to be the most productive the more we interact with one another and share ideas together. So as I mentioned earlier, I encourage you to keep your videos on if you can, if you feel comfortable with that. And that way we can all just have this really good, rich conversation. And also we can do that through the chat. So the first thing I want you to do is in your bag, you should have a puzzle piece. I'm going to bring mine out. And I want you to think about the year 2020. And there's all sorts of great memes and gifs out there for what 2020 represents. But I want you to look at your puzzle piece and say, how does your puzzle piece possibly represent the year 2020? This is a great critical and creative thinking exercise. I put the little superstar strategy there. So if you'll answer in the chat, start thinking and putting your answers in there. Anytime you see this yellow star, that means it's a strategy you might want to use with your teachers at a staff meeting or encourage your teachers to use with their students just to get that creative thinking going. What I love about this strategy is sometimes kids or teachers will look at you like you're absolutely nuts. I don't know how I'm going to say this puzzle piece represents 2020, but some will surprise you, and it's great to give them that opportunity to challenge them to think creatively. So I'm going to start mine. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's got like, it's sort of colorful, and then there's this line, and then it goes black. So that to me says, January, February, and March were kind of going along just fine, and then everything went black and just sort of stopped. So that's my puzzle piece. Right in the chat box, maybe your puzzle piece. How does your puzzle piece represent 2020? I'm going to give us a couple seconds and see what we can come up with. Let's see. And make sure that your chat is set to everybody, not someone specific. We have folks typing. Crazy shape. Yeah. Red tip, 2020 constantly feels like we're at a tipping point. That's a good one. Oh, here they're coming in now. Wild ride. It's kind of hard to answer through a chat, isn't it? But take a look at some of these answers. We'll also have a recording of this if you want to check back to what people are saying in the chat. Single puzzle piece represents I'm not complete without the rest of my team. That's a good one. Bigger piece to a bigger piece to a bigger puzzle. Exactly. So I just like to throw that out there. It's a great way to get your kind of mind thinking in a little bit different way. And I love doing this with students and with teachers because it forces them into that sort of creative thinking mode, which then can translate into all the different content areas that they have to think creatively about as well. So we chose this, this kind of event because we were looking actually at an Ed Week research article that came out, and it talked about what are those sort of shared pain points among administrators. And this was the list of pain points that came up among those administrators. And in particular, we looked at the top 3, which if you'll notice are the same 3 that we chose for our breakout sessions, right? Building comfort with technology, cultivating student social and emotional learning, and building that student engagement. So we know that those are shared pain points. I assume that they are for you, which is why you came. And I think the best way to do that is let's just sort of talk to one another. Let's see if we can find out from other administrators what is going on with these particular areas. I also want to point out, if you sign up, let's say for engaging students, but you're interested in, what happened in the Cultivating Social Emotional Learning room, we are going to be taking notes and sending those out afterwards, as well as having a recording of each of the different breakout rooms. We hope, if that all works. And so you will get access to all the great learning in the other breakout rooms as well. So, Dawn, how are we looking? Have we gotten everybody into their rooms?
We do, yes. Yes, and if anyone comes in, I will just watch that when I get into my breakout room. So we are all set and ready to go.
All right, so we're going to go there now, and Ben, Jamie, Dawn, and myself will be leading those rooms. We just have 3 questions to talk about as a group. We'll be in there for 15 minutes. That's really, a good chunk of our time together is a chance to learn from one another. So we will get a 60-second warning when that chat room or breakout room is about to close, and then we'll come back together and share what we learned. So without further ado, let's send ourselves to our breakout rooms. Unmute myself. All right, can you guys see my screen again? All right, anytime we do breakout rooms, it just never feels like enough time. I hope you had some good, rich discussions in there. I know we certainly did. I was in the group about engaging students and some really, significant challenges out there, but also some ideas were shared on how to get around that. So thank you so much for your participation in that and your great ideas. All right, so here's my second super strategy challenge for you. If you want your teachers to think creatively and critically, summarizing is one of the best ways to do that. One of the most sought after skills from employers actually is being able to synthesize and say something succinctly. So here's your challenge. In 5 words or less, write something in the chat room that you learned in your breakout room. This is a way that you can, again, this is a strategy you could use with your teachers to have them reflect on learning that you've shared with them. I love doing this with kids because they really take you up on that challenge. Sometimes I'll spot a word or 2, but it's a great thing to try with them to get, again, those critical and creative thinking juices flowing. So let's see in the chat room what we have. SEL resources quick. That makes me want to check it out. Teachers need time. You only needed 3 words to get it across. Very good. On-demand Google Classroom. Yep. Student choice drives engagement. Another fun thing about this strategy, just to note, some people create a sentence and some people just do individual words. It's always interesting to see how people approach a challenge like this. Short videos and games. Work with pros and cons. So hopefully you all were able to get some good tips out of there. Tuck-in Tuesday read alouds weekly. That's very intriguing. Tuck-in Tuesday, I want that. Very fun. So again, and I want to mention again, I have the HyperDoc, which will remind you of all these little strategies if you wanted to try them with your teachers. So, learn from each other a little bit. Now I want to share with you a few resources that we found, like I said, to help turn this crisis into an opportunity. Because I really think as administrators and leaders, that's our obligation here. It's going to be so easy for teachers to sort of revert back a little into kind of drill and kill, because that seems easiest to push out through the computer. But I actually think we can maybe use this to really bring to life some of the changes maybe that we've been wanting to make in our instruction anyway. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And I thought a great example of that would be the example of the Deepwater Horizon. If you think back, it was 10 years ago that literally, hundreds of millions of oil was just gushing out of the ocean floor from the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, talk about a crisis. It burned there for like 80-something days. So obviously our buildings aren't literally on fire, but it sort of feels that way, right? At any given minute, we can be thrown into remote learning or back and forth. And what about, one of the things that came up was, we said you can't come back to in-person learning if you chose the virtual option, but what if it's not working? Do we break the rules? So much chaos going on. And I just wanted to share a little story that out of this horrible, horrible tragedy, which indeed was a tragedy, and I don't mean to make light of it, it certainly is, all the ramifications of that are not over. But one of the things that happened was in that 87 days, they had to figure out a way to cap this oil, figure out a mechanism to cap it, because that didn't exist. And they also had to figure out a way to install it way, way, way down deep in the ocean. So that ingenuity that came out of this catastrophe is now something that is installed on every rig and that is in existence. And it's really protecting. Something I learned was that oil rigs are some of the richest ecosystems that there actually are in anywhere on the planet. And so out of this catastrophe came something really positive, a way to protect these wonderful environments that we have in different places. So maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but I wanted to think about even a crisis like this has something positive to take out of it. So if we were to apply that for our own kind of crisis that we're in, I'm going to ask you in the chat room, think about what are some positive things that have come out of this crisis. Or maybe, you know, you're not quite ready to put on those Pollyanna glasses yet. Maybe something positive you hope will come out of this crisis. I bet there's some things that you can think of. So let's use the chat room here, the chat box, to think of some positive things that have come out of the crisis, because that will help us focus how we turn this crisis into our own goals and meeting those goals. Teamwork, yes. Family engagement, yeah, I can definitely see a higher level of family engagement. It's not just a home letter that goes home with the new project, right? More family time and downtime, that's a great one. Flexibility. All become more adept at technology. I don't think that's going away, even if we come back to all in person, right? I think we're going to use some of those technology skills, hopefully going forward. Communication. Be able to serve the community with our facilities, such as serving as a testing site and a food distribution center. So how can we actually turn this into making the world a better place? Fantastic. Outdoor spaces. These are some really great things. Thank you. So I wanted to start with that to point out, you know, if we can focus on those positives or things that we want to see happen, then we can, you know, figure out how do we channel what's going on and really sort of do those things on purpose. Some of those things have happened by accident, right? But let's do them on purpose. Let's do them beyond the pandemic. So keep those ideas coming in the chat box. Feel free to do that. And like I said, in the recording, you can see some of those great ideas as well. But I think as administrators, when I think about the levers that we have to use to really turn this crisis into an opportunity, I think the biggest levers we have, and some of us have talked on it already, are professional development. How can we provide teachers with helpful knowledge and skills? And curriculum, providing them the resources so that they can be successful. So I want to share with you a couple of resources that are out there for you guys that might be helpful in those two areas. So starting with professional development, I think the point I'd like to get across is obviously times have changed and professional development needs to look different. It can't be, you know, everyone come in for a full day of professional development that nobody's looking forward to. We really want that not to be the case. And so I just want to provide sort of a checklist here, things for you as you're kind of evaluating professional development services. What are the things you should make sure are there for administrators and for teachers? So I'll just point out a couple. For administrators, I think that first one, making sure that there is clear, measurable learning objectives that are going to successfully improve teaching and learning, because teachers just don't have time. You don't have time. So you want to make sure any PD that you are using, that you know that they're focusing on what is actually going to happen as a result of this workshop, right? What are the learning objectives that are going to be covered and how is that going to affect teaching and learning? And then the other one I think is being flexible with delivery methods and pacing models. You know, we can't, you know, expect everyone to be able to spend a full day and come together anymore, right? So what kind of options are there for doing this in a virtual environment or creating unique pacing models? So those are just a few things. And again, there's this whole checklist is available for you in the HyperDoc. For teachers, I think my favorite ones from this list are the first and last ones, and they kind of go together. So obviously it just has to be practical. Teacher time is just too valuable, and you're going to lose them if any PD that you provide isn't immediately applicable and classroom proven, super practical. And then that goes to the last one, which is it's actually a valuable use of your time. That to me is the number one question to ask as soon as teachers leave a PD. Was that a valuable use of their time? Because if they say yes to that, you have their buy-in, you're on your way, right? If they say no to that, you've got a hole that you got to dig yourself out of, right? So that's the checklist that I wanted to offer you guys to be able to use as you're evaluating or kind of using your own PD. How do you kind of make sure you are doing it in a way that I think it can be most effective for you and for your teachers? And when I just wanted to point out, like when we talk about flexible teaching models, one of the things we've noticed is we're moving a lot toward more frequent, smaller PD workshops. So maybe there's, you know, kind of longer sessions at the beginning of the year, say August, and maybe at sort of the mid-semester in January. But then it might be monthly touch points on very specific, timely, relevant topics, and maybe those that teachers have some voice into. So that's a great way to just offer a short little workshop that gives maybe a few strategies that teachers can try over the next month. And then they maybe hone one or two of those as something they really put into their arsenal. And the next month they get a few more. So I found this model has been really attractive, particularly during pandemic teaching. But it's something I think that can stick overall as we talk about turning this into an opportunity that actually improves teaching and learning for the long haul. So I'm curious here, if you think about, all the sort of PD that we could possibly provide to teachers, what are some of the topics that you think would be valuable for your teachers? So again, let's use that chat box. We're better together. So I told you to be really interactive, and it's going to be really interactive. So use that chat box again and talk about what topics do you think would be most valuable for your teachers? Let's see what we can come up with. Using a webcam, something super specific. Okay. Google Classroom. I think we take it for granted a lot of times that our teachers know all about Google Classroom. And I think some of them are looking at us a little bit like deer in the headlights, have a lot to learn there. Balancing it all. Permission for self-care. This is so important. Remember I talked about their stress level right now? Smart word strategies, okay. Tech tips. Engaging students virtually. I like it. Got some good conversation going there. Yeah. So, those are no surprise, right? I just wanted to share here here's some of the topics we hear the most popular topics for kind of having that flexible professional development, smaller chunks. I see learning targets coming in there, time to collaborate with others. That's so important. So just wanted to put these out here again as some topics that you might be wanting to focus on with your teachers. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't share that these are some things that we love to do with teachers. So we do have Flex PD, but hopefully the resources we share are useful to you, whether you work with us or whether you do your own PD or work with anybody else. But I did want to share, like I said, that main one is that you know what the learning objectives are. So I wanted to share, when we do PD, we have learning objectives for every single session. So for example, here one was, how confident are you in infusing projects with cross-curricular content, collaboration opportunities, and real-world connections? And you can see before the training and after the training, there was a 49% improvement. So we take it really seriously to make sure we actually show gains on the learning objectives that we are asking for people's time about. And I think the way we really accomplish that, though, is by making it fun, modeling those engagement strategies. Here's DB and J over here again in this picture with playing a game that's made up and points don't matter. So they like to have a lot of fun. And I think that those smiles are definitely needed, which was a great quote that we got recently just this month from a PD that we did. So again, I wanted to share that is something that we have to offer. Now I want to share some resources and some ideas around evaluating curriculum. I think, again, just like PD is different during a pandemic, curriculum is different during a pandemic. And one of the things I think about is if we're doing more virtual learning, it becomes all the more important that the actual instruction is as real and authentic as possible. So that our virtual world doesn't mean we're not teaching real world connections and real world relevant issues. So I wanted to kind of use that phrase, authentic learning experience. I think, when we ask teachers and administrators, what should your classroom look like? We get this idea of this authentic learning experience. And so I wanted to hear from you. What are those characteristics of an authentic learning experience? So if you're looking for a curriculum that does this, what does that look like? So in the chat box again, share some characteristics of an authentic learning experience. Let's see what we come up with for that. Real life, intentional, engaging, real world connection. A lot of that application to the real world, yeah. Authentic assessment, I think that's so true. It's not just some, made up test at the end, but do you have some sort of real way to show what you've learned? Timely feedback, storytelling is so important. Student-teacher rapport, that's got to be part of that authentic learning experience. We've talked about that in our small group a lot. All right, I want to be mindful of time so you guys can keep those coming in. I see connections, hands-on project-based, to have students demonstrate what they've learned. Yeah, connected to new learning, making those connections, absolutely. All right, I want to share with you some of the answers we usually get to this question, and you can use that then as a checklist as well for when you're evaluating supplemental curricular materials. Is this going to create an authentic learning experience? And again, the whole reason for thinking about this now is let's use this time to say, you know what, teaching is obviously looking different. Might as well jump all the way in and let's do something that's going to really engage them because it's meaningful. So some of the things we get is, I love that philanthropy-based education. That's a really cool one. sustained inquiry. So something that is really kind of using that inquiry-based instruction, but over a period of time. Authentic audience, that's something that came up in the chat box. Iterative thinking is another one we get where students have the chance to fix something up, you know, how they hate to revise their work, right? But making sure that we have that in there as a part of these experiences is so important. Some level of student choice. Engagement, that certainly came up in the chat box. Cross-curricular, I think that's a way to make the instruction really deep and really resonant and also save time. Real-world application came out a lot, and collaboration, that also came out. So those are some of the characteristics of authentic learning experiences that we've identified and that might help you as you look at, you know, supplemental curricular materials that can really help your teachers and support them. And I also wanted to point out, again, how do you model some of those strategies that you want to see in your teachers? This one is something we just call ask them first. So if you noticed, you know, I had these already, you know, developed. These were some of the characteristics that we had in mind. But I just asked you guys first to share your learning. So I didn't imprint on you what I was expecting you to come up with. You could sort of share your thoughts unadulterated like that. So that's just a simple strategy, again, to model with your teachers. Next time you have something to share with them, you might already do this, but just a little reminder, just to ask them first. Give them that chance to share what they know first. Just a simple way to make inquiry-based instruction come to life in a very simple way. So in terms of resources, I wanted to share a couple project ideas, and the overviews for all these projects are included in that hyperdoc. So if these are something that you want to try with your teachers and with your students in your school, then you should have a lot of information there that will help you, you know, pull these off. But essentially, this one could not be more apropos. This one was called Prevent the Spread, and a project like this, students really start to test the effectiveness of different disinfectants. They have little petri dishes. They can swab whether they're at home, different, you know, areas of their house, or they can swab different areas of the school and then put different disinfectants on different petri dishes of the same swabs and see which disinfectant is the best at preventing the spread of germs. And then from that, we talked about authentic assessment. They create a public service announcement that really, you know, convinces people to maybe wash their hands, or maybe convinces you as the administrator to change the soap at your school because they found another one to be more effective. So that's an idea for a project that might, you know, cover some of those authentic learning experiences that we just talked about. I also, you know, nothing is better than actually showing it in action. So I have a 2-minute video here. I want to show you another project. And again, this overview is in that hyperdoc as well. And this one is about students learning how to debate respectfully, which I think of, you know, with Ruth Bader Ginsburg's recent passing. I think about her friendship with Scalia and how they had this friendship, even though they had very different sort of philosophical ideas, but they were able to debate respectfully. I told myself I wouldn't bring up the debate last night, but I'm, you know, if anybody watched that last night, I think there's certainly a case to be made that showing kids how to debate respectfully has a place in today's world. So I'll share this video, and as I do, think about some of those authentic learning characteristics we just talked about, either in the chat or you know, the ones that I shared, and then we'll see if you see any of those kind of in action in this video. All right, we'll watch this for 2 minutes.
In Take a Stand, my kids were able to pick a topic, learn how to debate respectfully with each other, and then they were able to build a podcast and share that issue with other parents and people around the world.
You have to like get along with people that disagree with you to see if they have like a better point. If you're debating, you do it politely. When you're debating, you don't fight, like you gotta just like be kind fighting.
My kids were able to collaborate and share ideas throughout this whole project.
Sometimes she would be like, no, this is better, and I'd be like, why do you think that? And then we would kind of have like a mini debate. We never just listened to our first one we ever did, and it was horrible. Yeah, so we're definitely glad we did that. We think we should spray for EEE because 4 people have died and 10 people have been confirmed in Michigan to have the disease.
The past couple of weeks, they've been super pumped about science, and they've been really excited to continue our project. It's been awesome.
We had a lot of fun just making the podcast and debating it, doing the research. We just had a ton of fun doing this project.
My kids were really engaged because they knew they were going to share their podcast with their parents, the community, and the world.
Though we're all finished with the project, we're still going to keep researching.
All right, so hopefully that gave you a better sense of what a project could look like if that's something you want to do in your classroom. Again, the overview for that project is included in that hyperdoc. But let's take a quick poll. Did you see any of these characteristics in the video that you just watched? These are some of the characteristics we just talked about. Let's see if we can launch that poll.
All right, here we go. Here are the results.
All right, do you want to share those out a little bit? You can pick them. I don't see them on my screen.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so collaboration is the big winner, 92%, followed by engagement and real world application, authentic audience, sustained inquiry, student choice, cross-curricular and iterative thinking.
Okay, so a lot of things you noted in there, right? And one of the things I think about thinking about authentic learning experiences and selling this for your teachers right now is the idea that if you have one project that is, say, cross-curricular, and you can sort of wrap all these pieces around, it can actually make things a lot easier in terms of planning. You're not planning for 5 different subject areas, right? You're planning this one project and weaving all that together, and you're not having to re-engage the kids with each different content area. So that's one of the ways I like to sell teachers on it. So obviously you saw from the video that was pre-COVID, the video of that. But so one of the questions we get asked a lot is how do you do these sort of authentic learning experiences remotely? So I want to show you how we do that and give you a chance to play along. Another project, just to give you a sense of these, is called Food for Thought. In this project, students learn about nutrition and about how to make healthy choices, and they end up creating and developing their own recipes and creating a recipe book as a class, and then they publish that and sell it, and they donate the proceeds to a charity of their choice to help support a nutritional cause. But it all starts with making sure they're engaged and they know why this is important. So in person, the project has something like this. You can see, we just have these different shapes or colored shapes, right, that we pass out to the kids. And we ask them, what could that possibly mean? And then we reveal what those mean. Obviously, if you're in a virtual environment, that doesn't work, but that doesn't mean you can't change it up just a little bit. So I want to show you how this works remotely. I'm going to open up this document here. And your names are all listed here, everyone who registered as of probably about, I think, 9 o'clock this morning. So if you registered after that, you may not be here. And in here, I just write play, hit return, and I'm gonna scroll through here and see if you find your name. They're alphabetical by first name, and see what color you have. And then I'll reveal what it means. So we'll scroll through the D's. Hopefully you find your name. What color did you get? We got the T's, and then Yvette there, the last one. All right, so hopefully you know your color. And at this point, so we did this virtually, I can share what these mean. So if you got red, you, my friends, I am sorry to say, represent the 1 in 4 people who will die of heart disease. So as you can see, these colors represent your likelihood to get different diseases based on nutritional choices. So if you had black, you are the 1 in 5 who will die of cancer. Gold is 1 in 6 will have high cholesterol. Sorry, that's orange. And then gold or yellow is 1 in 10 will develop diabetes. Purple, 1 in 20 will die of stroke. And who out there was green? You want to raise your hand if you had a green? Hi, greens, you are safe. You're the 1 in 12 who are safe. So this is just, it's sort of a little bit of a morbid game, but it's a game in a way to gamify the concept to really get students thinking about their own mortality and their nutritional choices and how those are linked and why nutrition is actually really, really important. So I just wanted to show you how it doesn't take a huge adaptation, but you can take all of these sort of authentic learning experiences. You can do them virtually as well. So hopefully that gives you a sense of how that can look. And then I think the main thing is if you are going to ask teachers to do these sort of authentic learning experiences, just provide them with the resources that they need, right? So, things like connecting them to content standards, so they make sure that time is really well spent, or connecting them to real world connections, so they don't have to spend the time maybe looking for an industry expert. So we do have projects that include all of those with them. Or like I said, we've got the overviews you can use as well. So again, I'd be remiss if I didn't share that. So we do have some projects. I'm going to be giving one away here shortly, and wanted to just share with you that it's a way to make sure that project-based learning actually happens if you equip your teachers with the resources to make it happen. And one of the things we're really intent on with these is making sure that the lesson plans are easy to follow, as this quote says, but also it doesn't become a paint by numbers. It's something that the teacher is actually building capacity, teaching capacity, and is giving a model for how they can use this sort of teaching style, project-based learning, beyond this one project. All right, so as I mentioned, let's give away a project. So Ben in the background has been making sure everyone who's actually on the call was entered into another strategy that I can share with you, which is a randomizer. Just a fun way if you need to randomize groups or pick a winner, let's say like this from a group, you can do this in your staff meetings. So you go to flippity.net, but I will show you how it works. So there in the background, while we were chatting a bit on this tab, demo, Ben was putting your names here in this left-hand column. So if you were on the call here, you should see your name there. But on this other tab, there's a link that will turn all those names into a wonderful little spinner. So are we ready to find out who won a project? Spin that wheel. I feel like I need music. All right, Henry. Henry, you have won a PBL unit, a Blue Apple project. So I wanted to, one, give away a project, but also show that as another strategy. Again, a fun way to engage students and to engage your teachers, especially if you are in a virtual environment. So Henry, we will make sure we email you a way to redeem your free project shortly after this time together. All right, let me check our time. Okay, we're gonna wrap up quickly here. Some takeaways. I just wanna recap what we talked about because we talked about a lot. We started with those 4 big ideas for leading through a pandemic. We had several modeled strategies that you might wanna use with your teachers. Then we had a big chunk of time where we learned from one another about our different topics that we selected. For PD, hopefully you can utilize that evaluation PD checklist, as well as some of those like sample workshop ideas. And also I'll share with you a needs analysis that we can provide you, 5-minute survey that you can complete, and we'll give you a report that's customized for you about what your needs are, regardless of whether you work with us or not. For curriculum resources, again, that checklist of what is an authentic learning experience, hopefully a few project ideas that you can use with your kids at your school. And then I'm going to give you one bonus strategy come out with that rocket launch. But I wanted to remind you, all that we talked about is there in that hyperdoc. So I'm going to actually skip this for the sake of time because I want to make sure we have time to launch our rockets. But I'm curious, when we email you after this, we're going to share all these resources, but I'd love to know how this was for you. Which of these parts did you find the most useful? Let us know in that email when we check in with you. That would be really helpful. So next steps, if you are interested in FlexPD at all, we would love for you to complete that free needs analysis and get that report that you can use to really focus your PD efforts. If you were interested in any of those Blue Apple projects, you can get started at blueappleteacher.org. And we would love to share with you guys a 25% discount on any of that stuff if you wanted to engage with us for PD or projects. And again, we'll be sending you information in that hyperdoc that will share how you can redeem that. All right, I'm gonna end with a fun activity. I chose this activity because I thought it really touched on the 3 things that we were here to talk about. One, that build comfort with technology. And I think the most important thing about building comfort with technology is being willing to do things when you don't know how they're gonna go, which is exactly what we're gonna do. We are gonna launch a rocket together and I'm not sure how it's gonna go. So I wanted to model that, number 1. Number 2, engagement. I wanted to show that you've got to still find ways to do hands-on things, especially even if you are in a virtual environment. So finding some cheap materials like these here and using this as an example, you could use this for, obviously to introduce a science unit on, some sort of chemical reaction or physics, but you could also use it to talk about cause and effect in ELA, right? So finding ways to do something fun and memorable will help with that engagement, which was the second issue. And then social emotional learning. I'm going to turn this into social emotional learning exercise by letting us take the opportunity to name some of our worries and then launch them away. So in your baggie, you should have a film canister, a marker, and some Alka-Seltzer tablets. So the first thing I want you to do is take your marker and think about some worries that you have right now and write those on your film canister. So if you want to take this time to write those down on your film canister, there's something therapeutic about just naming them. You know, this is something I'm worried about, and I'm putting it down and releasing a little bit of it as you write it, and releasing a little bit more, I hope, as you launch them into the air. So once you have that written down, this can get a little bit messy. You're also going to need a tad bit of water. So I'm going to take now about 7 to 10 seconds to go outside. If you are able to, you can join me outside. You could take your computer and do all this. Otherwise, then we could all launch together. Otherwise, I'll show you how to do it and you can launch on your own time. So I'm going to take a moment here to stop sharing. And then I'm going to go outside. You can time me. I'm going to see you back in 10 seconds. If you want to play along, grab a cup of water. You might want to grab a jacket if you're where I am and it's chilly out. And we're going to meet you out there at the future site of the rocket launch in just a second or 2 or 3 or 10.
There's no way she could make it in 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. The suspense builds. 4, 3, 2, 1. I was right. There was no way she could.
Oh, she's there.
11
She
seconds,
made it.
Sarah. Very nice.
Unmute myself. Okay, are we ready? So you should have your film canister. I'm going to tell you how to do it first and show you. And then if you want and you're able to, we can launch these all together. And that's how we're going to end it today, okay? So I want to say thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully this is something you could use with your teachers, again, to model an engagement strategy as well as a social emotional learning one as you launch these worries away. So I'm going to take one Alka-Seltzer tablet, put it into the film canister. It fits nicely. Then you want to do this part rather quickly. You're going to take about a tablespoon or so of water, dump it in here, put the lid on quickly, turn it upside down, put it on a flat surface, and stand back and wait a second, okay? So here we go. I'm going to do mine first. All right, we got a good snap there. Let's stand back. I'm going to try not to squeal, but no promises. There we go. So I have shot my worries into the air. I'm going to leave you with that, but if you are able to, we're going to leave the Zoom on here for a couple minutes more and see if anybody else wants to launch theirs. Otherwise, you're welcome to do that on your own time. So thank you, everybody, very much. We'll send you all those resources in the email shortly.